82.
82. Wow.
82 right now.
Okay, so this already breaks all records.
All
right.
You know, who have a diabetic.
I don't see myself. Am I on?
Give them some sweet, something sweet. Sugar,
I don't know.
it
Make
gets
sure your
better.
camera's on.
Either.
I don't see myself either. Hello.
I'm seeing some nice chats.
From Arizona at
Hello.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Dedication.
It really is. Okay, so since a lot of people are here, and it is officially 3 o'clock, I think it's officially after 3.
Yes.
I'd really like to welcome everybody to the first Après Midi
I'm not on there.
ever.
Down a little bit.
This is the first time ever that we've done this. I did pass by the cafe today where we have been holding this event since 2003, believe it or not, the same.
Wow.
And they are doing some renovation work. It's called the Café de la Mairie. And I saw the owner and I asked him when he thought he'd be open. And he said, probably not until after July 14th, after Bastille Day.
Oh, wow.
Wow is right. So that means that we're probably going to be Zooming it like this until the fall because there's no meeting in August. And on this event with us today, she's agreed to do this as well. So it looks like we're gonna have to get used to this as the new normal, at least for a little bit of time. And then I was thinking that we might be able to actually organize a combination event in the cafe as well as on Zoom so that we can make this available to everyone all the time. So we're going to consider that. And I would like to know your opinions. I also have, I'm going to start a poll. So I don't know if everybody can see. I'm going to launch this poll right now and you'll tell me if you can see it. Okay, can you see the poll maybe at the bottom of your screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I don't know about that mute. I don't know anything. I would really like some help, but
Okay, so the idea here
keep asking, but nothing happens.
The idea here is that since we normally do it at 3 o'clock Paris time, that kind of makes it difficult for people on the West Coast because it means they'd have to be there at 6 a.m. So we were thinking that if we did it at 6 p.m. here in Paris, then at least it's a more reasonable time for West Coast and for everyone in the U.S. So maybe you guys will give us a thought about that. So just look at the poll. Okay. I'm opening this with everyone. Oh, and I see Kathy is muted, so I'm going to unmute you, Kathy. Okay, you're fine. I've opened this up so that everybody can talk at least for a while, so that it kind of feels like we're here. You know, even though it might be a bit of a free-for-all. So you all get a chance to kind of look through, see who's there, say hello to your friends. Give us a big smile. Show us what you're wearing at home. I don't know.
Anyone can see me.
Can we order a coffee?
We can see you, Brenda.
You can order coffee, but I can't make it for you.
Oh, cool. From the epicenter of New York City.
Okay, so where is everybody? New York, Paris?
I'm in Michigan, where it's cold enough still to have a fire.
Oh my goodness.
It's cold enough indeed.
Okay,
I'm
California.
California.
Okay, is that the farthest away we have?
I'm in Sarasota, Florida.
Princeton, New Jersey. Sunny.
Here I am in San Francisco.
New York City. Who's from Princeton? I have family in Princeton.
Sarasota, Florida.
Florida.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Toronto, Canada.
Turn off your phones, everybody. Be sure to turn off your phones.
Cognac, France.
I have one
Palma de
announcement of
Mallorca.
important
LA,
today.
California.
I have an important announcement to make.
Addison, Alabama.
You don't need to go downstairs and pay at the end.
We can't do it alone.
That's great. Are you guys interested in getting started?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, let's get started.
Okay, we're going to get started. So what that means is I'm going to mute everybody. Okay, so that Kathy, Borrus,
Photo's not up there. My
And-
photo's not up there, Adrian.
I'm sorry, what?
My photo is not up there. I don't know where it went.
Is this Nancy?
It is.
Well, you have to click on your video and allow your video. See the little camera?
Bottom left.
Just find your little camera with the line through it and unclick it so that you can come on. Because Nancy, we really do want to see your big smile. I can't start it for you, unfortunately. Okay, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Todd, I'm going to mute you now.
I'm participating at a.
Okay, I'm going to unmute Kathy Borrus, and I'm going to unmute Patty. And so there are only 3 of us. Everybody else should be muted.
Adrian, can you hear me?
Yeah, can everybody hear Kathy?
Hello.
No, they're nodding, yes. Okay, Kathy Borrus. And by the way, there is a speaker view and a gallery view. Okay? So right now, for whatever reason, when I go to speaker view, I'm getting Brenda, not me. Don't know why.
I've lost myself, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, Kathy, why don't you wave your hand? Show everybody where you are. Everybody see Kathy?
I'm not really in front of Notre Dame.
Oh, don't tell them that. Don't give them away.
I see you, Kathy.
Don't give away the secrets. Okay, Kathy Borrus. Kathy Borrus and I have known each other for an absolute lifetime. And believe it or not, I've lost her on my screen.
She's still there.
Okay, Kathy, say something.
Hello, can you hear me?
Well, I don't see her.
Scroll your screen.
Yeah.
I'm on my screen and I'm right above the square above you. You may have to go up.
I don't know. I've lost you.
But you can still see her slides. That's all that matters.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
can see her slides. So
Okay.
Kathy and I have known each other for a very long time. We met when she was working on your shopping book, right?
Yep, Fearless Shopper. Here it is. Can you see it?
I'm gonna put this away.
Yes, I can see it.
Who's that? Put yourself on mute.
Yes, I can see it.
Check your mute buttons, everybody.
It should say mute.
Okay. I don't know. I've lost Kathy completely. I don't get it. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
So Adrian, your voice is cutting out.
Uh-oh. Internet issues, technical problems. Okay, Kathy.
Adrian, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Kathy's a freelance writer. She's based in DC. That's where she is right now. And she's the author of a slew of books, including 500 Buildings of Paris, 1,000 Buildings of Paris, which is an enormous tome. And if you don't have it, it's really required for everyone's shelves. And The Fearless Shopper, which is when we met, and Stubby, which is a children's picture book. And she has become quite an expert on Notre Dame, which is why we've invited her to talk about it. And I want to just say that I passed there actually on Sunday. And it was up. Now I've lost the share screen.
Yep.
Me too.
Kathy, we lost
Kathy,
your share screen.
There's Kathy.
Did we lose Kathy too? Uh-oh.
She's gone.
Uh-oh. Kathy's gone.
Kathy's right here.
Kathy,
She's there.
no.
She's coming
Yeah,
back.
I'll
No,
have
she's
to
coming
get her
back.
back. She's coming back. She's coming back.
Yeah, she's coming back.
Is she back?
Yeah. She's back.
It's good to see everybody.
Look up at the top of your screen and check up at the top for a choice of view.
Yeah, there's speaker view. And so you should be able to see me right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Adrian, you might need to make Kathy a co-host again.
Yeah, I'm going to mute all for one thing. I just can't find her.
She was there now. I lost her too.
Well,
I thought
you're a co-host, so you should be able to let her in too.
She was coming back in. But I don't see her in the list.
If you look at the list of participants, you'll see Kathy Borrus, but her video is clicked off. Adrian, if you click it
I
on,
can't, I know, but for some reason I can't go further down.
you see
Not
the
let
list
me
of
go down.
91 participants. If you click on that,
Yeah, no, I'm there.
I see.
now she's gone, but she was there.
I see her, I see her, I see her, but I can't, Kathy, I can hear you, right? I'm gonna make her co-host. Kathy, are you back? I think she's having technical problems. Clearly.
Clearly she's had a technical problem.
Just as she was about to start.
Her video is clicked off.
But I can't do that. She has to do that herself.
It's off.
I know, but I can't turn it on for her. Only she can turn it on. So
And now it looks like she's gone again.
Okay.
Now she's gone.
Again, completely?
Now she's back on.
Well.
Can you hear me?
Oh, wait, I found her. She's back.
Yeah.
I don't know where any.
Yay. She's back.
Yes. You just have to share your screen though.
Okay, so everyone who is out there who is not muted, please mute yourselves.
Now I lost you again.
No, now we've got you. You're back.
Now,
Share
yes,
screen.
I don't see anybody on the screen.
She's working on it.
I lost you guys now. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Let me escape from this.
Share screen.
Just a minute.
We both hear and see.
Right.
All right, wait a second.
Great.
Why don't I see you guys? You disappeared.
Don't worry about us for the moment.
We got you. You just need to share your screen, Kathy.
Okay.
It's at the bottom. Uh-oh. Maybe she's having internet issues.
Don't know.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes. Kathy, are you there? Well, everybody, we're waiting. Thank you for your patience.
What happened here now?
That's her share screen, I guess.
No, this is somebody else. Sumner, you shouldn't be sharing your screen.
Oh.
Thank you.
Let's see. Kathy, are you there? Kathy, are you there?
As far as I can see, she's gone.
No, I've got her.
Can you see me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you can hear me. I don't know, it's not, it said, I keep getting messages saying this is unstable. So I hope this works.
Okay, thanks. Other people, please don't share your screens. Everybody can see them. Just Kathy should be sharing her
Stay
screen.
muted.
Okay, I see Adrian, is that right?
Great.
Okay.
Okay, so can you share your screen now and start your presentation?
Yes, just a minute.
It's at the bottom.
Okay.
Yay!
Okay.
Start your slideshow.
Okay. Did you do an intro, of which I missed?
Yes,
Yes.
start your slideshow. We're ready for you.
This was the book Adrian was talking about. Well, bonjour à tous. I hope this works. Hello, everyone, and I hope you are all.
Start the slideshow. Oh, I think we're technical. It's technical.
Oh, it's a shame.
She said she was getting an unstable message.
Yeah, she's frozen. So she has an unstable connection.
Well, when I do that, I have to reboot my Wi-Fi box. Because I get those messages occasionally.
Right.
Right.
You know, I just had her on, and then when everyone said, yay, now we have her, I lost her. This is Patty from New York. So I don't know what's going on. Now I just have a picture of Notre Dame.
Well, that's her
book.
screen.
Right.
So her screen is there.
Okay, all right, good. All right, thank you.
So
I'll
we have
unmute.
that, yeah, that's the presentation. And
Okay.
you know, what's
I've
happened
got
is
slides.
so many people are on the net at one time that it's made these kinds of things a little more difficult to do. But Kathy's definitely on. So if you are not on mute, please be sure you mute yourself.
Okay.
I need to unmute her.
You're back.
Can you hear me? I don't know why it keeps cutting out, but is it still stuck?
No, you're good now.
Okay.
So let's,
Well,
but the presentation's no longer up. You have to share your screen again. Great.
go.
Yay.
Sorry about that, and I hope it doesn't disconnect.
We'll keep our fingers crossed now.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Washington, D.C., where it is 9 a.m. or now closer probably to 9:30. If you're in Paris listening and watching, well, it's 3 p.m. and have a glass of wine on me, because I was planning to give this talk in Paris in the cafe. But for the past 10 years or so, my boyfriend and I have been spending the month of May in Paris. So we plan to again, but given the circumstances, I am delighted to be Adrian's guinea pig for the first ever Zoom Après Midi. So thanks, Adrian, for inviting me, and everyone for Zooming in. Well, as you all know, we just passed the first anniversary of the devastating fire, April 15th last year. So I'm going to go through a bunch of slides, talk about how I came to write Notre Dame de Paris, a celebration of the cathedral, a little bit about the book's organization, my research, and some of the stories that fascinated me about the objects. I would say the subtitle rather, pretty much sums up the book. It is indeed a celebration of the cathedral, its ingenious Gothic engineering, and the central role it's played in Paris's religious, political, and cultural life. So a week after the fire last year, and a week before we left for Paris, I got a call. Oops, let me try and switch that slide. Got a call from the editor of my two previous Paris books, published by Black Dog and Leventhal, which is incidentally now a division of the French publisher Hachette. As some of you may know these books, 2 years ago, I gave a talk on the 1,000 Building book, which is the first book, a big coffee table book, which gives you a little bit about the architecture, the history, or just a good story of each of the 1,000 buildings. 500 Buildings of Paris is the paperback revision, and 500 fewer buildings. So what I knew of Notre Dame probably came from my initial research on the 1,000 Building book. First thing I did was reread what I had written about Notre Dame. One very long paragraph, obviously not enough to write a book. Anyway, the editor said they wanted to do a book celebrating Notre Dame through the centuries, using about, ultimately there are 60 historical and cultural images, one long introduction, 3,000 words, and a descriptive text for each of the images through the centuries. I said, sure. The hitch was they wanted to publish this book in the fall. So I had 5 weeks to research and write the book. Needless to say, with that kind of deadline, I did not get much sleep. Before I left, I read absolutely everything I could get my hands on and wrote a 5-page introduction the week before I left, starting with the fire, going back into history, into its construction, and the central role it's played both religiously and secularly through the ages. So Victor Hugo's quote here is quite apt. It's so true of so many buildings in Paris as I discovered writing the first 1,000 Buildings book. For various reasons, money would run out, inclement weather stopped construction. In the case of Notre Dame, for example, there was flooding of the Seine. So as most of you know, it took nearly 2 centuries before the cathedral was completed. And no architect's name is attached to it. It was the ingenious work of master builders and stone masons. So this first section on the building defines common Gothic cathedral features, definitions, descriptions, stories of its portals, statuary, the western facade, and decorative elements. The next few slides just give you a sampling of what's in this section. This is a particularly good cutaway, the schematic for understanding the parts of the Gothic cathedral and how it's organized. And you can see that the parts are labeled, and it's also followed by descriptions, more descriptions of the features. So one of the items on here is the Virgin's balcony, which is on the 3rd level. It runs across above the Gallery of Kings, above the 3 main portals. And the statue is dedicated right in front of the rose window is of the Virgin Mary. And it's flanked by 2 angels, and there's more description on the intricate carvings on the portals. This is one of my favorite sections. Is it a chimera or a gargoyle? And the names are often interchangeable. Both are carved mythical beasts, thought to ward off evil, yet at the same time inspire a healthy religious fear of hell. They're also called grotesques, but there is a difference. A gargoyle has a practical use. It functions as a water spout, and that's the ones on the right bottom, to drain the rainwater off the roof, while chimeras on the left are only decorative. And the ones here look out over Paris along the top of the colonnade from the north and south towers. Altogether, there were, before the fire, 54 stone creatures that lived on the roof. Some have names, some don't. They were added in the mid-19th century. And even though they are Gothic looking, so much about the cathedral, the Gothic cathedral, is not Gothic. The most famous one, Le Syringe, it's pronounced differently in French and English in about every language, so we'll just call him the vampire. I am sure you've seen him before. He's been reproduced multiple times. In classical mythology, this creature was a large, beaked, shape-shifting bird that occasionally fed on human flesh. But I have to say, this one looks more brooding and pensive, bored even, certainly more contemplative than carnivorous. So the next section is on the history, and you may recognize this detail from Delacroix's famous painting, Liberty Leading the People, which depicts the 1830 July Revolution. Well, why is it here? If you look closely to the right of the boy with the guns, you will see the towers of Notre Dame cutting through the fog of revolution and watching history unfold. In fact, the history of Notre Dame is one of continuous construction, renovation, revision, destruction, alteration, renewal. It's an ever-changing landscape, both its architecture and its storied past. So this section takes you in images and text from Notre Dame's inception through the 21st century, as witness to all the major events, its wars, its revolutions, coronations, liberation, marriages. I don't know if you can see Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's quote, but it says here, "A rock pile ceases to be a rock pile the moment a single man contemplates it, bearing within him the image of a cathedral." Well, the brainchild for Notre Dame was Bishop Maurice de Sully, who really wanted to make a statement and mark Paris as a major capital of the world. So he conceived of the rocks of the cathedral in 1160. And 3 years later, with the backing of King Louis VII, Pope Alexander III laid the cornerstone on a bedrock of limestone on the Ile de la Cité. And then the fundraising began. By the time of the bishop's death in 1197, construction on the foundation, the nave, the aisles, and the transept had begun. It was never completed, obviously, in his lifetime, but he clearly had the vision that it would be a lasting monument. Eventually, it was completed in 1345. Continuous renovations and replacements over the following centuries over the fire changed it, and which is kind of ironic, the hue and cry about rebuilding it exactly as it was, because in fact, it was ever changing. This is one of the items, one of the images in this section, an illuminated manuscript from 1430. Many of you know that Saint Ginevra is the patron saint of Paris. She lived in the 5th century BC, not in medieval Paris. However, this illuminated manuscript And Saint Ginevra is obviously in the red cloak. And if you look right below the red cloak, again, are the north and south towers of Notre Dame. It's very, very useful for seeing Paris in the 15th century. It really was a medieval warren, a crowded cluster of alleys and buildings with hardly any room for people, but there are a few heads sticking out here and there. So we come to Marie Antoinette and the beginnings of the French Revolution. In this drawing in 1781, 25-year-old Marie Antoinette and her fashionably dressed entourage are in the interior of Notre Dame, giving thanks to the birth of her son and would-be heir to the throne. As many of you know, she was popular at first, but then she was blamed for the financial crisis, nicknamed Madame Deficit, and her famous "let them eat cake," or in her case in French, it was "let them eat brioche." And her lavish lifestyle certainly did not endear her to her subjects, especially when they were experiencing famine and a bread shortage. And as all of you know, she was beheaded 12 years later. So I'm showing you this again because during the Revolutionary War, it is the Western facade, and across the top are the 28 kings of Judah. And this is a fairly well-known story. The revolutionaries thought they represented the kings of France, and so they beheaded them. They also totally desecrated the inside, threw out all the religious objects. They melted all but one of the bells, tore down the spire, and turned Notre Dame into a wine and food warehouse. A temple, and they dubbed it a temple of reason, dedicated to liberté, equalité, fraternité. An interesting side note is in 1977, while workers were restoring a building in the 9th arrondissement, they unearthed 21 of the 28 statues with their heads right beside them. And they are now all in the Cluny Museum, sorry. And here is a detail of them. And this painting by Jacques-Louis David represents the double coronation of Napoleon Bonaparte and his wife Josephine in 1804. Well, Napoleon was politically astute and wanted to curry favor with the French Catholics. So he brokered a deal with the Catholic Church in 1801 to have Notre Dame be the center of Catholicism in Paris, but of course, leaving himself in charge of all matters of church and state. In this famous depiction, Napoleon has already been crowned. You can see the gold wreath on his head. He was crowned by Pope Pius VII. And this imperial gold wreath is already on, as I said, on his head. And he is in the process of crowning Josephine Empress. The interesting thing about this is that the artist David basically changed his political views with the prevailing winds. It reminds me of that scene in Casablanca where Captain Renault changes his political views. Anyway, first he was for the revolutionaries and then imprisoned. And then when he got out of prison, he switched his allegiance to Napoleon and the powers that be. So we're going to skip a couple of decades. Notre Dame was in terrible shape after years of the revolutionary destruction. It had weather damage and it was almost sold. So who saved Notre Dame? In 1831, Victor Hugo published Notre Dame de Paris, which Hollywood turned into The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It was one of the books I read as I was researching, and it proved completely invaluable. Not only did Victor Hugo recreate the ambience of life in Paris in the Middle Ages, but he also devoted multiple chapters to the architecture. He sometimes was critical, but he really was a fan. And among other musings, he referred to it as a vast symphony in stone. And he also lamented its precarious condition. Critics dismissed the novel, of course, as they often do, but the public loved it. In fact, it was wildly popular, and it was reprinted several times in the 1830s, resulting in an arts commission and a competition established to save Notre Dame and renovate it. So this man, Viollet-le-Duc, saved it the second time. He and his partner, Jean-Baptiste Lassus, won the competition. They started modestly, but then their plans grew grander and more ambitious. And of course, there were conflicts, as there always are, between the establishment and the creative types. Among other renovations, they originally planned to restore the western facade, replace the damaged sculpture, update the flying buttresses, and add gargoyles and chimeras, and replace the previous spire. So they started construction in 1845. It went on for about 25 years. And because Lassus died during restoration, most of the credit goes to Viollet-le-Duc. And thanks to Google, I was actually able to find a book that he wrote online in the latter part of the 19th century, all about Notre Dame's construction, the renovation, and the research he did, which was extensive. He did major research into medieval structure, the design of every element he was adding or replacing. And with the spire, this is a drawing of the construction of the spire. He was very concerned with the effects of wind on the stability of the spire. It was going to be much taller than the previous one. As an aside, I really think he was a visionary genius. His idea was not to mindlessly recreate an exact replica of what had been, but to use the best materials and innovative engineering technology available at the time. And he wrote in his book, quote, "To restore a building is not to preserve it, to repair or to rebuild it. It is to reinstate it in a condition of completeness, which could never have existed at any given time," unquote. Well, while he was quite innovative, he was still faithful to the spirit of Gothic engineering. So the next few slides are a sampling of what's in the rest of the history section. Takes you through major and minor historical and cultural events and daily life in each of the decades of the 21st century into the early, of the 20th century into the early 21st century. So Notre Dame is obviously the focus here, but you get a sense of early morning in Paris. And it's interesting that color photography developed in the latter part of the 1800s. It was still in experimental stages, so these soft hues in the photo indicate the photographer probably used a filter, or it was a black and white photo which they hand tinted. In World War I, Paris was the target of German bombs. It killed a lot of civilians, actually. But French authorities ordered protective barriers along all the heritage sites. So here you can see sandbags piled up in the portals. And it's remarkable that Notre Dame survived with very little damage. Oops, went backwards. So there are a few World War II images. This one is a famous photograph by Robert Doisneau. And you can see Notre Dame through the window in the background. There were 20,000 men and women who fought off the retreating Germans for control of Paris as the Allies were advancing. And the battle lasted 6 days from August 19th to 1944, August 19th, 1944 to August 25th, when the Germans surrendered. And it just coincidentally, a week ago, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the German surrender. So I'm going to skip a few decades. I'm wondering if anyone was around Paris in 1971 when 21-year-old Philippe Petit enthralled crowds balancing between the north and south towers of Notre Dame. It was the first of his high wire acts. Police never quite figured out how he got up there, but they suspect that he snuck into the cathedral at night, the night before, rigged the thin cable line across the towers, and then he danced and juggled his way from one tower to the next. And he did this all 225 feet above the ground. So Notre Dame has really been witness to many events, celebrations, as well as tragic events. I'm sure you will all remember this from about 5 years ago. Je suis Charlie. And another section of the book shows treasures. One of the oldest and most treasured objects is the crown of thorns, which is resting on the red velvet pillow between the candlesticks. It's shaped like a wreath. It's 8 inches in diameter. Supposedly, it was worn by Jesus during his crucifixion. It has quite a storied past. It was transferred from Jerusalem to various locations, among them to Constantinople by Byzantine Empire. And it was kept there for safekeeping until 1238, when the then emperor, Baldwin II, was running low on funds. So he basically hocked it to a bank, a Venetian bank, as collateral for a loan. And his cousin, who happened to be King Louis IX, AKA Saint Louis, he was his cousin and assumed debt and took ownership of the crown. It originally held 70 thorns entwined with gold threads, all of which are missing today. Well, legend has it that King Louis handed them out as political favors to friends along his journey through the south of France back to Paris. And during the French Revolution, it was moved to the Bibliothèque Nationale for safekeeping, brought back with Napoleon in 1801. And since 1896, it's been encased in a crystal and gold tubing with jeweled clasps. Another of the treasures, of course, is the grand organ and all of the rose windows, which survived the fire. The organ probably needs repair. The first mention of any organ at Notre Dame was in 1357. This one is 52 feet, stands 52 feet above the cathedral floor, probably the most famous in the world. It has 8,000 pipes, multiple keyboards, pedals, stops. It was repaired and replaced multiple times through the centuries. In 1992, it was fully restored, and more recently, they installed a computer system. There are images of the 2 other rose windows, which are in the north and south. They're featured in the book with descriptions. And I don't know if anyone saw the recent PBS series on the construction of Notre Dame, but they go into detail about the intricate design and creation of these windows. It's really fascinating. If you get a chance, I highly recommend the series. So another of the treasures is this Roman artifact. In the 1960s, French authorities did a massive archaeological dig beneath the square in front of Notre Dame. And one of the items they discovered was this limestone slab relief from a Roman votive pillar of the early 1st century. It represents the Vulcan Roman god of fire. is kind of eerily prescient given last year's fire. It's part of the museum there, as are other artifacts, but it is closed because of the fire. Whoops. So this is another of my favorites. Copper roof statuary was a Viollet-le-Duc inspiration. They represent the apostles and the New Testament evangelists. Many of you are aware that when the fire broke out, the statues had already been removed. In the lower right, whoops, sorry about that. Their heads were removed, and the statues and their heads were airlifted to the south of France for restoration before the fire. So they've all been saved. The roof statuary on the left is particularly interesting. It was positioned at the juncture of the roof and the spire. It represents St. Thomas, but if you look at it very closely, it bears a striking resemblance to Viollet-le-Duc himself. And he must have amused himself with this bit of statuary immortality. So through the ages, Notre Dame's legacy has been its place in the hearts and minds of people from all over the world. It's also been an inspiration for artists, writers, photographers, filmmakers, and others, including this painting by Winslow Homer in 1867, which was itself inspired by Charles Negre's earlier historic photo. And there are many other artists who painted Notre Dame, one of whom is Matisse. He lived nearby and painted multiple versions of Notre Dame, as did Picasso. There's a Picasso image in the book. I did show this a little earlier. This wood engraving is from a Victor Hugo 1882 edition of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He was a great admirer of Notre Dame, as I said, and so he made Notre Dame the silent protagonist in his book, against which the lives and loves of the major and minor characters play it out. This is a scene from the end of the book, and spoiler alert, it depicts the fate of the evil archbishop. There are film stills. You may recognize this from the movie Charade. This one's my favorite, with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. In this scene with Notre Dame in the background, she asks him if he would ever do the same thing the hunchback did, which is swing from the towers and rescue the woman he loved. Now, as an aside, I had a slight disagreement with the editor of the book, who told me that Notre Dame definitely upstaged the actors. And in my opinion, nobody and nothing could ever upstage Cary Grant or Audrey Hepburn for that matter. So that brings us pretty much to the fire. And as you know, all work stopped, and there is a competition to rebuild it. There's also a controversy between the traditionalists and the modernists. Adrian told me about a recent documentary on French TV called Saving Notre Dame, which, Adrian, thank you, was excellent. The amount of work that went into cleaning up and shoring up Notre Dame before they could even do any kind of restoration work is just phenomenal. And maybe you want to share that link or tell people about it again. I am of the opinion that it has to be rebuilt using new technology, because but giving an emphasis on the past. And I think that Viollet-le-Duc would agree with me. It just has to be modernized. And there'll be a hue and cry, of course, because there always is. I'm sure you all remember when IMP's glass pyramid went up. And now it's probably one of the more popular tourist attractions. So that brings us to the end of the slideshow. And I just want to read a little bit from the book. Through the ages, Notre Dame has been the hub of daily Parisian life, a religious icon, but also a secular inspiration, influencing everything from art and literature to music and pop culture. It has survived wars and devastation, demonstrations and strikes, a fictional hunchback, and actual revolutionaries. No doubt it will be rebuilt as it has many times before, and it will emerge with a new vision of the future while preserving its historic and artistic links to the past. No doubt its reconstruction will be endlessly debated, as is the French cultural tradition. The story of the cathedral is still being written. And before I turn it back over to Adrian, I will let Victor Hugo have the last word. There is nothing like a dream to create the future. Adrian.
Wow. You've got me in tears, quite honestly. So you guys, if you'd like to unmute, I suppose we can unmute you. Patty, I guess you can unmute all. We can do that, right? Is there? I think everybody's unmuted. Well, first of all, I would certainly like to thank you for that amazing presentation. And my first question is about the book itself. Where can we obtain the book? Can you hear me?
I don't know about, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know about bookstores in Paris, so the Abbey bookstore always seems to carry my book. I know they have the 500 Buildings in Paris book.
Okay. Okay, great. And I just, I know that.
Did you hear my answer?
Yes. It's Abbey. You said Abbey bookstore you think has copies, but I assume Amazon, you can get the book on Amazon?
Yes, and you know what? I'm sure you can definitely get the book on Amazon. I'm sure that Brian from the Abbey bookstore will order it, or bookstore orders it. I don't know if they have it in stock. I also don't know at the moment if it's going to be translated into French. The other two books are, not by me.
Shakespeare and Company opened yesterday, and they probably would order it as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's true. Right.
I'm sure any bookstore will order it for you. It's currently, it's available.
So everybody, I'm gonna remute you because it becomes hard to hear the speaker. But we're gonna put if you put a question into the chat, okay, then I'll read the question and you can unmute yourself in order to actually ask it. Does that make sense? Because it's too hard to hear when everyone's unmuted. Okay, I'm unmute Kathy. Okay. All right, Patty's on too now. So, okay, we already have a couple of questions. Christine Fisher, you want to ask your question?
Hi, Chris.
She said, Kathy, do you mean it has to be modernized structurally for stability long-term or modernized in design?
Definitely structurally. I mean, they didn't even have a fire sprinkler system in the roof. So definitely in structure. And You know, I think they can modernize it potentially. I'm not an architect, but in design, which still has a historic sense of it. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see what they come up with. But definitely in structure.
Don't you think there's going to be a tremendous amount of argument over this?
Absolutely, there already is.
Yes. Okay. And Clark Assad wants to know, what is the title of the book by Viollet-le-Duc that you mentioned? And can you please repeat the quote?
I would have to get off this screen and look it up. If I get off this screen, I don't know if I can get back because I have it saved on my desk. I think if you do a Google search, you probably can find it, or I can send the information to Adrian.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the name off the top of my head.
There's a question from Judy D, who says she hopes to be in Paris for September's Après Midi, and she's wondering if there's any part of Notre Dame that can be seen by visitors. I know the answer to this.
You know the answer?
I know the answer.
Exterior.
It's called no. It's called no and hell no.
It's the exterior. It's the exterior.
You can see the exterior. You can walk around it, except you cannot walk on the parvis. And it is completely gated off. It is fascinating to see, however, absolutely fascinating, because you can easily see the buttress, the structures that they placed under the buttresses to support them. And you can see how the scaffolding that was around the spire before the fire is still there, but has been mostly destroyed because of the fire. And it looks quite beautiful, actually, and sad all at the same time. So
who knows by September, but.
Well, they've stopped all the work on it.
Right.
Okay, so for now, yeah, they've, the work is stopped. Hopefully it will start back up again, though, with deconfinement. Angela asked, she says she understands the bell was rung recently for the first time since the fire in honor of the essential workers battling COVID-19. And she was curious about any information or fascinating facts that you might have about the bell.
Well, it has also been repaired a number of times and replaced, I should say, through the centuries. They lose their timber. I don't have specifics on each one of the bells. What I know is that they were used as cannonballs during the Revolution. That's why they melted them down, all but one of them. I think Emmanuel, they have names. I think Emmanuel was the one that was, they left.
They were used as what, cannonballs?
Cannonballs. They melted all of the bells,
the metal,
except for one during the Revolutionary War, and they used the metal to make cannonballs. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and then I have a question from Pabel. I am a member of the Architectural Committee of the National Arts Club in New York City. We've gone virtual, and I would like Kathy's contact info in order to plan a possible event with you. That's what he wants, she. How best can I get a hold of her? Thank you for a wonderful presentation. So I'll let you explain how to get a hold of you.
Through email, probably. Borrus@gmail.com.
I will make sure that in tomorrow's newsletter, that will be available on how to get a hold of you. Also, we have been recording this event, so I'm hoping to be able to make the recording available. And someone has asked me for the link to the Saving Notre Dame documentary, which was in a previous newsletter, but I'll put that in there again as well.
And Adrian, I think you can only watch it for the next 2 days. I think they're taking it off on the 14th, did you tell me?
Oh, then we better go move quickly. And Charlie says work has started today on Notre Dame. So that's good news. Sounds like it's back.
One thing about the documentary, if you're in Paris, you can listen to it. If you're in the States, you have to get that VPN app and fake out the location, your location.
Right, you have to use a... Patty, did you have something to say about that?
No, what Kathy said was absolutely right.
Okay,
It's
right,
restricted viewing in the US. You have to have a VPN to watch it from the US.
Okay. Any other questions, you guys? You can put them into chat or unmute yourself. Or...
Adrian?
Yes.
Hi, it's Sumner. Kathy, I guess my question got lost. Thank you so much for the presentation. Amongst all of your research, what was the fact you learned about Notre Dame that surprised you the most?
What a good question that is.
Yes, very good question. I guess I may not have known how much it had changed over the years, and then learning about the different sculptures and the different parts of the structure. And I think the thing that fascinated me the most was actually Viollet-le-Duc himself. You know, he actually turned down the art school, École des Beaux-Arts. He turned down a place in it because he thought they only turned out cookie cutter architects that had no imagination. So he was largely self-taught. He is a fascinating character.
Wow. So the question is, who's going to take over as chief architect? And what are they going to do with it?
Well, they're doing another competition, right? Oh, the other interesting thing is Viollet-le-Duc was only 30 years old, so he's a pretty young guy.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
When they won the competition. I think Jean-Baptiste Lassus was a little bit older, but I think he was also in his 30s.
Wow, that's amazing. But people didn't live as long, so middle age was earlier. Right?
No.
So, okay, so James Keegan wants to know, what is Kathy's take on the origin of how the fire started?
Oh, interesting question. I should have mentioned something about that. They say originally it was an electrical spark, but the French architect who actually helped me with the research on the first Paris book, he thinks it was worker incompetence, and that in fact they can keep trying to, like maybe a cigarette butt or something like that. But as long as they investigate, they will never find the answer. That's his answer.
I have a take on that after having seen the Saving Notre Dame documentary. I think it probably was the fault of someone with a cigarette. That would not surprise me in the least. But the team that works on Notre Dame they're so close to one another. This is such an emotional project for them. It's not like just working on any construction site. I mean, for them, it's like their life's work. And I don't think
documentary.
Yes, that came through in the documentary. And I don't think that they'd ever rat on whoever was really responsible. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. And that's why we're never going to find out. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So let's see. Anybody else have any other questions? And you could unmute yourself. And ask
Adrian,
them.
just one more.
Yeah.
Adrian, this is Sumner again, just one more. Early on after the fire, I had drinks with someone who is very close friends of the man that was running the whole thing from an administrative point of view. Apparently, they were working with the soldering tools. There were so many extension cords, and the temperature was so high that it could have also been possible faulty wiring, because they couldn't move things. I'm not expressing this well. They couldn't move the things down to wire them. They had to solder them up high, and there were real issues with extension cords. There's so many ways it could have happened. It was just another point on it.
Yeah, that's why they say an electrical spark, maybe.
Right.
Right. Right. And that's entirely possible. You know, look, I have to guess that they probably were smoking on site. Okay, the French smoke. But the fact that the fire started from a cigarette is more unlikely than, than to be true.
I agree.
Who knows? And the other thing that was interesting to learn, I had no idea that it was 1,000-year-old oak beams that were in the attic, that were supporting the attic.
Oh yeah. There is also, around Notre Dame, there's an amazing presentation of photos that were taken after the fire by Patrick Zachman, who's a Magnum photographer. And they're posted on the, on the fencing that goes all the way around. And I think if you Google Patrick Zachman, Z-A-C-H-M-A-N-N, I think, Magnum photography, I think you'd find them. They're pretty amazing. James Keegan also wants to know if you know how the promised donations for the restoration is going.
I do not know. I haven't been following it. I do know that they were having trouble raising funds until the fire, and then money just poured in.
Well,
but I don't know where the fundraising is
pledges
now.
poured in, and money. Pledges and money.
Right.
Right, both. Right. Let's see.
Adrian,
Yeah,
can I ask Kathy another question?
sure.
About her
James.
talking about the restoration as far as it being traditional or modern. You were just talking about the arches, the forest made in that old oak. There have been other churches in France that have had fires, and the arches that they had were replaced with concrete. So what is your opinion about using concrete to replace the arches? The forest that was all destroyed.
So it would be it's supported with concrete? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there are a couple churches in France that had burned, and instead of redoing the arches with wood, they did it with concrete.
But you're not seeing that from the outside, right?
No.
So, I don't know. I don't think that would matter so much. I think that the material needs to be fire resistant to prevent future fires, because you never know.
That was one of the big questions they were talking about, having to go into the forest in France and having, the traditional way of carving the beams and doing all of that, which would take a lot of time and costly. But it's true, the forest, not many people were ever able to visit it. So it's not something you visibly see once you're in the church.
Right. So I just think you use modern material, especially if it's not visible for the infrastructure.
Okay.
Right. I love this. Elaine says, against the cigarette explanation, a gas station employee I knew always said, fire started by a dropped cigarette only happens in films. He proved this by smoking while filling one's gas tank. LOL. Okay, then she needed to sign off, but not sure I want to be around somebody smoking a cigarette and pumping gas at the same time myself to take the chance, but oh well. Any other questions out there?
I have one. How's the weather in Paris?
Oh, how's the weather? The weather has been drop dead, the most beautiful spring ever in the history of the city. And we who are in lockdown here I've enjoyed it because I've taken a walk every single day for about an hour, mostly going to the river. And if you see yesterday's newsletter, you'll see a photograph that I took on Sunday, because the river is it's like an ice skating rink. It's absolutely glass, and the reflections on the river were so beautiful that it was like, well, I've certainly never seen it like that before. That's because there are no boats. There's a few swans, there's a few ducks, and it's just been stunning. And I'm not sure I want to go back. I don't want to go back to pollution and gray and all of that. But I don't know if the confinement has really affected it or not. It just seems to have.
I know, it's so nice. There's hardly any traffic on the streets in DC.
Well, the traffic started up again today in Paris, yesterday. It's not entirely back, but there are people on the street. They are wearing masks, and mostly. And the line at the post office now 2 days in a row was out way down the block, 6 feet apart. And it's starting to come back to life little by little, but the cafes and restaurants are still shut down.
I wish I were there.
So let's see, Julian Shamroy says, I miss confinement already. Julian, unmic and tell us about your confinement. Unmute.
Hi, everyone.
Would
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Please stop sharing screens so we can see other people?
Oh, sure. Kathy, unshare your screen now.
Okay.
We can see the people who are talking.
Right.
Did that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hi, everyone.
So, Julian, where are you?
I actually really miss confinement. Where am I now? I'm at Breakfast in America in the Marais, still.
So tell us about your
That has been my confinement
experience,
quarter
please.
for the last.
Tell us about your confinement experience.
Well, I miss confinement already because there's my confinement experience.
Yes.
It was quite interesting one actually, because we have an apartment in the Third, and it's currently under renovation.
Which happens
to be we had a little chambre de
me.
bonne where we could actually sleep. And then all of a sudden we had to stay inside. And so my partner and I were running Breakfast in America in the 5th and the 4th. And so we had to close both restaurants. And this is where I had an idea. I said, well, instead of staying in a small chambre de bonne, 9 square meters, why not moving in the restaurant and stay inside the restaurant? At least we have more space and also food in the fridge. So we did so for the last 2 months, and we're still there.
So for all of you who don't know, so Julien and Craig Carlson are the owners of Breakfast in America. And so they've been living in the restaurant. But not long after they moved in, I called to see how they were doing. And they said, oh, it's so amazing. We found this incredible place. It has 3 dining rooms and 3 bathrooms and a big kitchen and a fridge full of food. So
oh my gosh. But that was great because we had so much cleaning to do with all that space.
And outside of the box. And you've been eating pancakes ever since.
I've been making myself pancakes ever since, yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
need to leave. Adrian, I would like just to say we'll see you all next month.
Oh,
when
thank you, Talia.
Kathy, thank you so much
Thanks
for your
for coming in,
presentation.
for zooming in, I should say.
And I will be presenting next month in June.
That's right. Talia, you've agreed. And let me ask you while we have you on right now. It looks like the poll that I put out there, which I'm going to relaunch it right now. It looks like a lot of people would like for this to take place at 6 p.m. instead of at 3 p.m. Paris time so that the West Coast can participate. So are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I would only say that in this past couple of presentations I had during peak time in the East Coast, that Zoom has had outages because of the number of people that are on it at the same time. I hope that in a month from now, they will fix that problem. But half the people during time could not get on. Otherwise, I'm fine as far as
Okay, so I think we're going to change the time because it's really an overwhelming majority would like for it to be 6 p.m. Paris time, which makes it 9 a.m. East Coast and West Coast, and then East Coast could be at noon. So it would work very well.
Okay, I just want you to know that I will be talking about my background and research for my novel, Jerusalem Maiden, which half of it is set in Jerusalem, the second half in 1924 Paris during the avant-garde era. You may read about it.
Great book.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. You may read about it. My website is my name, Talia. You see my name on the screen, taliakarna.com.
Well, you'll get mentioned also in tomorrow's newsletter, so everybody can read Parlez Paris tomorrow, and I'll be happy to report on this event and the upcoming event. And maybe Kathy, would you like to have say some last words? You have something else you'd like to add to this?
No, so watch The Future of Notre Dame de Paris. We await the future.
We do. Now, I have Maria Sweeney says, it's not a question, but on the subject of Notre Dame recently, she did a cabaret show where her partner read Victor Hugo's description of Esmeralda, and she danced. I think we should all recite or dance when Notre Dame opens again.
Sounds
Great
like a
idea.
great idea.
Right. Well, I'm sure we all
Maybe
will.
a few years.
Well, you know, Macron, of course, promised a 5-year window, which was very bold of him. And I suppose he had to do that to make everybody feel good.
Optimistic.
Very optimistic.
But I think hopefully optimistic, especially given the virus, you know, from the virus.
I mean, as I understand it, to date, the only thing they've actually been able to accomplish is to shore it up and to prevent it from collapsing. That the real work hasn't really started on it at all. I mean, according to that documentary, anyway. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so in typical Après Midi style, I think that since we don't have to run downstairs and pay for our drinks, that we could certainly unmute and say hello to everybody and just chat and do what you want. And I want to thank Kathy for such a fantastic presentation. So let's everybody give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for inviting me to it. It was fun. And you see the guinea pig, as I said.
And I'm just sorry you're not here live, but at least we didn't miss out.
No, I'm sorry also. I was ready.
Thanks, Kathy. This is Pat LeBlanc. I'm stuck in Paris, and it's the best place to be stuck. I feeling that I was disappointed yesterday when I went out. My private Paris is gone. My silent, wonderful, all to myself Paris is now crazy again. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation, Adrian.
Thank you. You know, Pat, that's exactly, you have summed it up. When you're out there all by yourself, you feel like you have the city completely to yourself. And
yep.
I wasn't happy about giving that up today either.
Oh,
it's weird.
My friends at home ask me when I'm coming back to Washington State, and I'm saying, I don't know, maybe never, but you all may have to visit me in prison because I don't even have a visa, and I've been here since the 1st of February, and was here for 2 months in October and December. So I could be in trouble, but I'm happy to be in
Pat, they're not going to come take you out of your bed, okay, and deport you.
I can leave. I just may never be able to come back, so I might have to just stay forever.
Oh, that's too funny. And I see Eileen Walker. Eileen Walker, are you in Philadelphia? You have to unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in Philadelphia.
I miss you guys so much. So much. And I think that I'm not able to come back until September.
No, do you have a visa?
I have a passport, but I think they're not taking flights from America until September.
No, they're taking flights, but you have to have some sort of, a visa or something that presents you as a resident.
A lot of
I
flights
have
are
a
still being
passport, and an EU passport.
You don't have a passport?
No, I have an EU passport.
Oh, well then you're fine.
Oh, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, come back.
Come on over.
Well, for many of us, this is Eileen from south of Boston, and I'm usually there once a year, and I frequently come to Adrian's Après Midis. And this year, it doesn't look like I'm going to get there. I have some people to bring. I have a travel business, but it looks like it's probably going to wait till next year. So this has been amazing. I love seeing everyone, seeing the presentation, seeing Adrian. It was a great job, great presentation.
Wonderful.
So I will be looking forward to these while I can't be there.
Well,
thank you.
This is Marie-Christine. I'm from Rennes. I'm French. And I just did exactly the reverse that you all did. That is that I came back to my country about 2 years ago. And I'm a friend of Kathy Borrus, and I say hello to her. Sorry that I joined so late, Kathy, into the discussion, but something came up at work, so very nice to see you. Kathy,
Great
can you hear me?
Thank you for, yes, I can. You hear me? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. Nice to see you in front of Notre Dame. So yes, I did the reverse that most of all of you did. That is that I came back from the US 2 years ago to be closer to family, and I really enjoyed my stay here. But I do miss the US and especially Washington a great deal, and the wonderful friends that I made over there. So I just wanted to say hello to my friend Kathy, and wonderful work as usual.
Thank you.
And can I just put a plug in for Marie-Christine's sister, who is a wonderful artist. And Adrian, you should have
thank you so much
on Zoom at some.
Well, now that we know,
I believe she's joining us. I think she's participating in this.
Yeah.
Yes,
you listen to me?
And
Adrian,
introduce you to Isabel, who should do an art presentation of her artwork and Zoom.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
It was a great presentation, Kathy. And by the way, about the roof of Notre Dame, there was a thesis by architects who said that, in fact, the forest was treated 1 year before the fire and treated with oils and products which has perhaps enhance the proliferation of the fire. Do you hear me?
Yes, you mean that they actually treated it with some sort of chemicals that
yes,
that made it work
a year before. Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
It has been, yeah.
That's amazing.
And it's one of the reasons why the fire expands so much.
Wow.
Yeah. And also because the architects who had the direction of the working sites was not at the place in Paris at the moment of the fire. So normally during a so important renovation, an architect has to be at the place during this kind of renovations. And in fact, it wasn't there. It was in Brittany, if I remember well.
Wow.
That's so there are lots of reasons why. There are lots of reasons why the fire expands like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that before. Because people were saying that the wood that was so old, it wasn't dry, it was compact, and it's very difficult for it to be set on fire.
Yes.
But now you tell me about these oils or whatever,
yeah.
That's an interesting aspect, yeah.
Turpentine and so on.
Oh, it's so interesting.
So there are lots of mistakes which have been done before the fire, unfortunately.
And so that would be, whether it would be from a cigarette or from electrical, it's the same effect if the wood is flammable
Also
like that.
Also the workers have left some tools, electric tools, near the flesh of the term in English, the Viollet-le-Duc tower.
Spiral.
The belfry. In fact,
Fire.
Yeah, and it has been a multiplication of reasons. Yeah.
Wow.
I had a recent experience, a beautiful experience in Amsterdam.
Is that Maria?
Recently I was in a cabaret show, and my partner to do with Victor Hugo, the introduction to the description of Esmeralda, and I had the honor to dance as Esmeralda. I think we should all dance or recite like Victor Hugo when Notre Dame opens again.
Oh, Maria, show us your dance. Can you show us your dance now?
I dance like Esmeralda. Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Great. Can't wait to see you.
How wonderful.
I don't know if the question has been asked of Kathy before, because as I said, I joined in so late, and sorry again about that. But I wanted to ask Kathy, where does it come from, your interest in Notre Dame? Was it in early childhood that you developed this?
No. I think my first visit to Notre Dame was in college because it's obligatory for every first tourist, right? And it's always so crowded, the party, and everybody's snapping pictures. I have avoided it, so I probably climbed up there in college, and then like the Eiffel Tower, you've done it once, been there, done that.
Yeah.
No, the interest actually came from the first Paris book, 1000 Days of Paris, which I had mentioned earlier in the talk. So it came from there, and I was fascinated actually with what the revolutionaries did to it. Totally desecrated, but you know, so that's where the interest came from.
And your book about Paris is wonderful. It's a very beautiful book, yeah, about the architecture of Paris.
Well, I have
Wonderful.
to, thank you. I have to say that this book in particular is also beautifully designed. I can't take any credit for that. That's the publisher and the designer who, the book designer. I think they did a great job. You got a little sense of it from some of the pages that I showed.
Yeah. I can't wait to get a copy, but I want a signed copy.
I'll be in Paris, I don't know when. I can't wait. Right now, it may be December, but we'll see. It depends what happens with the coronavirus and travel.
Yeah.
I've already canceled 3 trips, so.
Oh my, yeah.
It's crazy. It's a crazy world right now. I can hardly believe we're doing this. By the way, just for your knowledge, we have had about 95 people sign in, which of course is, you know, breaks all records. And from all over, you know, from West Coast to, what's our furthest east? Who's further east than Paris? Anybody?
Someone said they were from Australia who was tuning in. I don't know. That's got to be the farthest point.
Definitely. But it's all pretty amazing that we were able to come together, and really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and about Notre Dame with us, because it's been you know, it's been for me it's been fascinating, especially being able to walk around it like I've been doing regularly since the lockdown. That was actually the first time I got to see Notre Dame since the fire was during lockdown, which makes no sense. But
wow,
I did it a year ago. That was the first thing I did when I got to Paris. You know, last year when I was staying up all night writing the book, waking up at going to sleep at 2 in the morning, waking up at 4, and going, oh my God, I forgot to add this to that text. So, next time I come to Paris, I'm not going to have a 5-week deadline.
Well,
Adrian?
Kathy and Adrian, just a quick goodbye. I'm very close by because I have tuned in from Cognac, which is practically in the neighborhood.
Sort of.
I had a chance to go to Paris last November. That's where I saw the cathedral for the first and only time after the disaster. And I have to say, it was utterly shocking. It was so different, especially because of the fencing that is going around everywhere. So it's very, very unusual and quite an experience. This was my very first Zoom meeting in my entire life. It was great fun. Thank you, Adrian, for hosting us all. And thank you, Kathy, for your beautiful presentation. So, à bientôt.
So, okay,
bye-bye.
We have 20 minutes. We can all hang
Adrian?
in.
Adrian?
Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to mention that some of you might have seen this photo. I was fortunate enough. I don't know if you can see it. It's very small.
You took that.
Yes. Magnificent.
Yeah. I took that photo 10 days before the fire. Actually, I had quite a few. I had the whole series.
Oh, wow.
And I was very fortunate to have seen it before the fire. And when I could see the smoke from my house, I live up near Butte-Chaumont Park. The evening of the fire, I had no idea it was on fire. I saw the smoke, and it wasn't until I turned on the television that I noticed that and saw that it was on fire.
And it's such a gorgeous photograph, James.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll turn off the share
No,
again
no,
here.
it's fine. I mean, look at the trees in full bloom. They were so beautiful.
Yeah.
If I could just jump in here as a French person who's lived in the US, you know, when I came back here, this disaster happened. I'm not talking about the COVID-19, but the Notre Dame fire. So I think that is reflective of what kind of world we are living in right now, that the disaster that was the Notre Dame semi-destruction by fire, whose actually cause is still unknown. To this point, the government has not released a report about the causes into the fire. But that was a traumatic event for French people, as you well know. That was a traumatic event for lovers of Paris, like you. And then now we are having this. We are having this coronavirus, COVID-19, preventing us from enjoying sites like Notre Dame and so many others, because Notre Dame is one cathedral in France, as you all know, but there are many others, and some of them are even more beautiful and more spiritual than this one. So just wanted to point that out, that there is a sort of a gradation now of catastrophes in our world, and one after the other seem to cancel each other.
So name a couple of other cathedrals you think rank way up there.
Oh, I'm not an expert. I'm only a journalist, so I'm not an expert. I will leave the ranking to others. But for me, well, obviously in the same style, I guess one could mention Chartres, certainly, throughout France. I'm sorry, James.
Amiens.
Oh, certainly, yes. Amiens, Reims, maybe, but certainly. Any kind of Romanesque church anywhere in the Saintonge region, for example, in the Saintonge, which is, you know, in the west of France, between, say, around the Sainte town, the city of Sainte, would rank very high, you know, in the pleasures that we take of just wandering about France's countryside and just stumbling on a beauty of a church here and there, chapel, something like that. So I think that what was traumatic for us French is that when we saw Notre Dame going up in flame, was to think about all this patrimoine, you know, this patrimoine, this beautiful architectural patrimoine that we have around the country, and which sometimes is falling apart because it's not as well known, it's not on TV screens. But I think there is a renewed interest in trying to find funding and media attention and political attention around those smaller churches or smaller chapels or other monuments around the country, to try to maintain them, restore them, make them even more beautiful and poignant as they can be.
Kathy, you, in your book, 1,000 Buildings in Paris.
I was just going to mention that there are a number of churches and synagogues
yes,
listed in, I mean, pictured in the books with some text. Some of them are quite unusual. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the names of them, but some of the modern ones don't even look like cathedrals or synagogues. And then there is that new mosque. Well, I guess it's not so new, a couple of years old. That's right in the, what is it, in the 7th, the mosque. I last year or a couple of years ago, I was so surprised to see this golden dome sticking out of nowhere. We've never been before.
Yeah, it's right on the river at Alma.
Oh, it's the Orthodox Church. Yes.
Orthodox, Russian Orthodox.
Oh, right. That's right. It's Russian Orthodox, right?
Orthodox Church.
Right. So, you know, it's constantly changing. Actually, 500 Buildings of Paris, it's time for a revision because there's so many changes in Paris.
The book, it's already time for a revision, 1,000 buildings.
Well, the revision was 500 buildings, and there's so many changes last year and the year before that I was there. that I think it's, yes, time for a change. And who knows what's going to happen, you know, how many businesses, maybe there were historic restaurants in there, whether they'll still be open after
whether
this
they'll
virus.
survive this, right.
So there'll be even more changes, you know, after things really begin to open up again. So
Maybe your next book could be 100. That way we might have a chance of visiting all of them. 500 and 1,000 is a little difficult.
That's a good idea. Well, actually, it was very difficult, and I suggested, I think it was last year, to the editor that maybe we should revise 500 buildings to 250. But I like the 100 one even better.
A little less work.
Yes.
Adrian, we're getting smaller. I don't know if everyone agrees the group is more manageable. What about if each person would tell some realization or something wonderful that's come to them out of something good that's come out of their confinement? What do you think?
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Anyone willing to share?
I'm happy to kick off. I was just writing about it today. I have gotten very deep into gratitude, really deep, and a little bit embarrassing. I don't have a balcony, I don't have a backyard. I'm in the western suburbs of Paris, and I've named my plants for my favorite grade school teachers.
I'm impressed you remember the names of your grade school teachers.
Well, these are amazing people. And actually, an elderly woman that lived next door to us, Miss Smith, who spoke to me in French in Austin, and she's probably the reason I finally came here. She was a French professor at the University of Texas. But a lot of gratitude. I guess like everybody, a lot of baking. Fortunately, my skinny, tall son ate most of it. A lot of baking, a lot of gratitude, appreciating solitude, appreciating not being interrupted. Also, I realized this morning all the things that didn't go wrong. I've thought often about what if a major appliance went on the blink? What if you had a big leak? You know, what if you sprained your ankle? Think of all the things that didn't go wrong. So I guess I've been kind of in that perspective and appreciative for how much I do have in my life. So.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Because in the beginning, we were all like everyone else, my business, down to a stop. At first, it was all, you know, oh my gosh, I can't do this and this. And I've just turned it on its head and gone to all the gratitude. So
I get it. Just as an aside, I'm going to be, believe it or not, I'm going to be filming a House Hunters International show from home tomorrow and Thursday. We're doing a Where They Are Now show, and I'm filming this with John Garland Jones, who is the singer in Nice. He did a show called Finding a Voice in Nice, and he and I are going to be doing what we call a watch party. So he and I on Zoom are going to be watching the show, our show, and then commenting on it, and they're going to be filming us doing that, and then they're filming interviews of each of us, and then I did my own episode at home on Sunday. I was every aspect of the filming. So I was the tech crew, I was the fixer, the cameraman, the sound guy, and the contributor, where I film myself showing off my collection of berets. So you're going to take all that and edit it together and create, you know, a show as a product of confinement. So I think it's, you know, it's pretty creative, and it's going to be fun to do. But they had to
get on, Adrian.
What?
When is it going to be on?
Well, I have no idea when it airs, but they will air it as quickly as they can because they're prepared to edit it quickly. But in order to do this, they shipped me a whole lot of equipment, you know. So yes, I've got all this fancy schmancy equipment here, which I told them to please send FedEx because the postal system is not exactly functioning very well.
Yes.
I went to the post office for the second time in a row today to pick something up that was, you know, mailed to me. and they know it's there, but they can't find it. It's just, they can't find it. That's it. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. So we can't count. Anyway.
Adrian, what was it being sent? Where was it being sent to you from?
New York.
Was it UPS? Did they send it UPS
No,
or
FedEx. They used FedEx.
Oh, they sent it FedEx.
It
Okay,
came from the B&H, you know, the big electronics store in New York?
Yes.
Yeah. They shipped
Okay,
it
that's
directly
good
to
to
me.
know. Mhm.
And I supposedly have to ship it back. So I have all these huge boxes of stuff.
Oh.
But anyway, it was really kind of a crazy experience to mic myself up, set up my phone as a camera on a tripod, you know, do a bunch of tests, and then go into the shot and act, and then come back.
Well, you're good at acting. You're a great actress.
And, well, it was pretty, well, I just play myself. There's not much acting to do. That's pretty easy.
I bet Erica would be very proud of you.
Well, she saw it. She said, "Oh my God, you are so funny." That's what she said.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
The best was after I did this whole scene and I went back to check it, I realized they had set the video on time lapse. So what I got was like high speed, this high speed show, and I sent it. I sent it to them because they might. Who knows? They might use some of that. It was really funny. You can imagine the berets going on and off, like, you know, like that. It was crazy. Anyway,
It'd be hilarious. Yeah.
It's a new world.
Oh yeah.
It's a new.
This is This is Patty Otis Abel calling in. I'm so happy to be part of this group now. It's my first time, and thank you, Julian Chamroy, for connecting me. But in response to Sumner's request about what we've learned from the shutdown, I'm in New York City, and so it's been a while. And I appreciate my private city too now. I love hearing you guys say that you're a little worried about it Paris going public again. But the thing that I think I've learned, I love that question, is that I'm really learning more to be in the present, because, you know, before this, there was the tyranny of, you know, other people and things telling me what to do when. And now that's completely up for grabs. Now it's just up for me to know what I want to do when. And I've learned so much about my own energy, my own way of when it's best for me to do certain things. I'm a writer, and I've learned a lot about, you know, when my best moments for writing are and for reflection, and it's really been, that's been wonderful. I thought I knew a little about living in the moment, and I've learned a lot more over the last 8 weeks. So I'm going to be part of it all next month.
I agree completely.
Yeah, I concur. All those plans we had made, out the window. It's called day by day, right? Yeah. Anybody else want to add to that?
I'd love to add something, actually.
Okay.
I've been bird watching recently. I don't know if you see any birds you haven't seen before in Paris, but, you know, all small little birds like mésanges or sparrows and all that. I saw them doing their comeback, actually, the past weeks.
You could hear
I was
them.
just concerned.
Beautiful.
You could hear the
Yes,
birds. That was amazing.
exactly. You can hear the birds. And they were singing so loud, and so it was magical. I thought it was different. You know, they had different melodies, different music. It was fantastic. I'm missing that already.
I
So.
know. I think the anxiety I'm feeling about the reopening, it's partly the reality that people seem to think the virus is over, so that they're not really being prudent. But I think really the anxiety has to do with what you're saying, Julien. Like I'm already missing the clean air, the clear skies, the birds, and that sense of peace that you could feel radiating from your neighbors. Everyone, initially, you could feel everyone was a little and then we started to settle into this stillness, and you could feel it. You could feel it, that energy in the entire building, and then across the street in that building. And there was just something so
Have you noticed how much nicer everyone's become?
Yeah, big time.
Hey, wait. No, my favorite.
No.
My favorite is how.
I didn't hear that.
I said, have you noticed how much friendlier everyone is? But my favorite.
Yes, that too.
Okay, is that it used to be that when you walk down the sidewalk, okay, I mean, the French just walk straight into you. You know, you're not, you would have to walk around. Not anymore.
That's true.
Walking around. It's like, whoa, that's
well, yeah, now it's like New York. Like in New York, you know, you see each other from like 12 feet away and you already adjust your path.
Right.
Here, they used to walk right into you. Now everyone's like, whoa, get over there. I'm going over here. And I don't mind it.
I also noticed in Washington, D.C., that you would pass people jogging or walking, or even when I'm on my bike, nobody says anything to anybody. Now everyone is waving hello as you walk by them at least 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
Further to Sumner's, this is Vanda from Toronto, Canada. Sumner, all those things that you said you would be worried happened actually did happen. My mother-in-law did break her foot.
Oh.
So we had to contend with a consult over the phone with a family doctor and then take her to an x-ray clinic.
Oh gosh.
And her electric kettle did break, so we had to go through finding how to purchase that. So we actually had to place the order online, make our way to the parking lot, wait for the attendant inside the store to call us to say it was ready. He made his way to the trunk of our car, put it in there, and we made the payment online.
Wow.
So having the gratitude in spite of all of that. And as far as Julien also saying about the birds, we have a squirrel who always likes to place a piece of food around our porch somewhere. He found a piece of chocolate from an Easter egg about that big. He placed it on the sill and I thought that's going to melt. Within half an hour it had. I took a picture of it and then it actually got cool, so it set. I started to actually really use a knife to take it off, and I threw it onto the driveway. Did he not just come right after it and start lapping it all up? Yesterday, he come back to our windowsill. The little bit that I didn't get off, he was licking the windowsill.
Oh, that's adorable.
I wonder if chocolate is good for
like
squirrels.
chocolate.
Who knew if they like chocolate? Yeah.
I had no idea. So
Well, it
in
would
spite
probably
of
be
all
good
of that,
with their nuts that they collect.
right.
Chocolate and nuts. What could be better? And speaking of chocolate, okay, Bertillon was open. Bertillon near coming from Notre Dame, and there was a Bertillon open, and I was really bad because it's 3.5 years. The first time I've had any kind of ice cream, but their dark chocolate sorbet is the best thing you have ever eaten in your life. And I'm so sorry that I know about it. That's all I have to say. So it was
they sell it at the port?
It's called, I think it's called Amer Noir or something like that.
Chocolat noir amer.
Chocolat noir, but it's sorbet. It's not ice cream, sorbet.
Sorbet, yeah. No milk.
Outrageous. Yes, it's outrageous. So you guys, you know what? It is now, we have 3 minutes to down right till we're off, but I want to thank everybody for joining in.
Thank you
so much.
Particularly Kathy.
Thank you, Adrian. It was wonderful.
I think we should all give Kathy another hand because it was a fabulous presentation.
And Adrian and Patty for setting this up. Thank you.
Well, you know, it was so difficult. You know, it was so difficult. It's called Create a Meeting. It takes, I mean, it really is, it's a lot less effort than going to the cafe. But it's been just about as much fun.
And have you heard about the fingers that you do online?
What?
No.
This way you're doing a hug.
Oh, a hug. Is that a hug? How about
Or a high five?
Bye.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so goodbye, everyone. And Kathy, thank you. And
Thank you so
everybody
much.
go buy her book. Go buy her book. Okay, quick.
À la prochaine.
And
bye.
then
Bye, Lisa.
when you see her next, she can sign it.
Biento. I'll be tuning into your July or your June Zoom.
June Zoom, the June Zoom with Talia Carner. Absolutely. I like that. The June, you know, in LA, they call it the June gloom. This is going to be the June Zoom.
Zoom. Thank you, everyone, for zooming in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Bye.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye.